Commander Jack Harrison stood at the panoramic viewport of the EDF Vigilant, watching Earth diminish into a pale blue dot against the vast canvas of space. His calloused fingers traced the reinforced glass, the same fingers that had once worked his family's Montana ranch, now commanding humanity's sole defender. The irony wasn't lost on him. A species that had once fielded armies of millions now entrusted its safety to a single vessel and her crew of 300. "Commander," Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez's voice carried from the command station. "Arcturus Defense Command is hailing us again. They're questioning our patrol route." Harrison allowed himself a slight smile. The Arcturians, like most species in the Galactic Assembly, never missed an opportunity to criticize Earth's single-ship doctrine. Their own defense force consisted of 10,000 ships, each virtually identical to the last. "Put them through, Lieutenant. Let's hear what our friends have to say this time." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing High Commander Ixal's chitinous face. The Arcturians' compound eyes reflected the stark lighting of their command center. "Commander Harrison, your vessel is deviating from standard patrol protocols." Again. "High Commander." Harrison nodded respectfully, though they both knew it was mere formality. "The Vigilant operates under Earth protocols. We're not bound by assembly standards. Your continued insistence on operating independently puts trade routes at risk. One ship cannot effectively patrol a sector, much less protect it. The Assembly strongly recommends that we reconsider our defensive strategy." "Yes, I've heard." Harrison stepped closer to the hologram. "Tell me, High Commander, how many ships have you lost to the Nexus Raiders this cycle?" The Arcturians' mandibles clicked in irritation. 17 vessels, but we've replaced them with 20 new." "We've lost 0, Harrison interrupted. "In fact, we've intercepted and eliminated 3 Raider squadrons in the past month alone. Single ship, single crew." The silence that followed was almost satisfying. Almost. Harrison knew the real threat wasn't raiders or pirates. Something darker lurked in the void between stars, something that made the Vigilant's existence necessary. "Your luck will run out, Commander," Ixal finally responded. "When it does, Earth will stand defenseless." The transmission cut off before Harrison could respond. He turned to his bridge crew, noting the tension in their shoulders. They'd all heard these arguments before, carried the weight of doubt from every species in the Assembly. "Status report," he called out, moving to the central command chair. "All systems nominal," Rodriguez responded. "Quantum architecture is maintaining 99.9% efficiency. The latest combat algorithms have finished integration." Dr. James Chen, their chief engineer, spoke up from his station. "The new metamaterial hull is performing better than expected. Self-repair capabilities are at peak performance." Harrison nodded, studying the tactical display. The Vigilant wasn't just a ship, it was humanity's masterpiece. While other species built fleets of standardized vessels, Earth had poured centuries of innovation into a single, ever-evolving platform. Every defeat, every victory, every encounter made the ship stronger, smarter, more adaptable. "Sir," Rodriguez's voice cut through his thoughts, "long-range sensors are picking up something strange. Grid coordinates 227 Mark IV. Harrison leaned forward. "Define strange, Lieutenant." "Energy signature doesn't match anything in our database. It's shifting, like it's trying to avoid pattern recognition." A chill ran down Harrison's spine. This was why the Vigilant operated alone, why Earth had chosen quality over quantity. Something was out there, testing defenses, probing for weaknesses. The Assembly's standardized fleets would be predictable, vulnerable. "Plot an intercept course," he ordered, "but keep us just outside their sensor range. Let's see what our friend is up to before we introduce ourselves." As the Vigilant's quantum drive hummed to life, Harrison thought about Ixal's words. Luck, the Arcturian had called it. But luck had nothing to do with it. Humanity had gambled everything on a single principle, that the most dangerous predator wasn't the one with the biggest teeth, but the one that could adapt the fastest. and the hunt was about to begin. The United Earth Council chamber erupted in chaos. Holographic displays flickered across the circular room, showing the destruction of humanity's last traditional battle fleet. 17 ships reduced to debris in less than an hour by an unknown force that seemed to predict their every move. Dr. Marcus Wade stood calmly at the center of the storm, his weathered face illuminated by the tactical replays. At 63, he'd spent his entire career studying alien combat doctrine, and what he'd discovered terrified him. This is suicide. Admiral Chen slammed his fist on the pristine white conference table. You're suggesting we scrap our entire defense force for a single vessel? One ship to protect Earth? No, Wade's voice cut through the noise. I'm suggesting we stop thinking like them. He gestured to the holographic displays showing various alien fleet formations. Look at the pattern. Every spacefaring race we've encountered builds their forces the same way. Standardized ships, standardized tactics, standardized responses. The room grew quiet as Wade manipulated the display, showing battle after battle. The Arcturians, the Vega Collective, the Proxima Federation, they all follow the same basic doctrine. Even their innovations are predictable, and something out there is counting on that predictability. Admiral Sarah Morrison, the youngest of the Joint Chiefs, leaned forward. The attack on the 7th Fleet. You're saying it wasn't random. It was a test. Wade expanded the tactical display, highlighting energy signatures from the mysterious attackers. They were probing our responses, expecting us to fight like everyone else. But one ship survived. The prototype vessel running the adaptive quantum architecture. The prototype had been Wade's pet project for years, dismissed as a waste of resources by most of the military establishment. Until now. Show them, Morrison ordered. Wade nodded, bringing up new footage. The prototype vessel, damaged but operational, suddenly shifted its hull configuration mid-battle. Weapon ports relocated, shield geometries morphed, and energy signatures scrambled. The attacking forces, so efficient against the standard fleet, couldn't adapt fast enough to the constantly changing target. This is what humanity does better than any species we've encountered, Wade continued. We adapt. We evolve. We think asymmetrically. But we've been fighting symmetrically, playing their game by their rules. Admiral Chen shook his head. One ship can't be everywhere at once. We'd be leaving ourselves vulnerable. We're vulnerable now. Wade's composure finally cracked. Our current strategy guarantees defeat against whatever's coming. But if we pour all our resources, all our innovation, into a single vessel that can evolve faster than our enemies can adapt, the cost would be astronomical, General Santos interrupted. The industrial capacity needed. We have it. Morrison stood, her decision visible in her stance. We've been spreading our resources thin, building ships that become obsolete before they're even launched. What if we focused everything? Our best minds, our most advanced technology, our entire industrial capacity, on creating something that never becomes obsolete, something that learns and grows with every engagement. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Wade brought up one final display. The design for what would become the EDF Vigilant. The ship's quantum architecture will allow it to reconfigure itself based on combat data in real time, he explained. Every encounter makes it stronger, smarter. No two engagements will ever be the same. And most importantly, it will be crewed by the best humanity has to offer. People trained to think creatively, to make the irrational choices that no alien algorithm can predict. The Council voted that day, not with the unanimous conviction Wade had hoped for, but with enough support to launch the most ambitious project in human history. As the chambers emptied, Morrison lingered. You're betting the future of our species on this, she said quietly. Wade looked at the rotating hologram of the proposed vessel. No, he replied. I'm betting on what makes us human. Our greatest strength isn't in our numbers or our technology. It's in our unpredictability, our creativity, our ability to look at a problem and find the one solution no one else would dare to try. The single-ship doctrine was born that day, though few understood its true purpose. It wasn't just a defensive strategy. It was humanity's declaration that they would face the future on their own terms, not bound by the conventional wisdom of the galaxy. Multiple distress signals detected, sir. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice carried an edge Harrison had never heard before. The Centauri colony. It's gone silent. 3 defense fleets reported destroyed. The tactical display told a story that seemed impossible. The Arcturian Fourth Fleet, the Vegan Armada, and the Proximan Defense Force, over 2,000 ships, had been annihilated in less than 20 minutes. The colony's population of 8 million now hung in the balance. Harrison studied the battlefield data as it streamed in. "Show me the enemy formation." "That's just it, sir." Rodriguez manipulated the holographic display. "There is no formation. The attack patterns are chaos. Pure chaos." Dr. Chen's hands flew across his engineering console. "Energy readings are off the scale. They're using weapons that shouldn't exist. Quantum displacement, temporal distortion, something that looks like localized space-time manipulation." The bridge fell silent. They were 3 days from the colony at maximum speed. Standard protocol dictated they maintain their patrol route protecting Earth. But Harrison knew this was what the Vigilant was built for. "Plot an intercept course," he ordered. "Emergency quantum jump." "Sir." His XO, Commander Sarah West, stepped forward. "Earth will be exposed. The assembly will watch us run away while millions die." Harrison cut her off. Dr. Wade didn't build this ship to hide behind patrol routes. Engine status. Chen's fingers danced across his console. Quantum drive primed. New configuration untested at this range. The assembly ships followed every rule of engagement, Rodriguez reported, studying the battle logs. Perfect formations, textbook responses. They never stood a chance. Harrison allowed himself a grim smile. "Then it's time to break some rules. All hands, battle stations. Initiate jump in 5. The Vigilant's quantum drive hummed to life, its pitch rising to a frequency that set teeth on edge. The ship's adaptive hull began to shift, plates flowing like liquid metal as combat systems came online. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Reality twisted. The void between stars bent around them, as the Vigilant tore through space-time. When they emerged, the scene before them defied description. The colony's orbital platforms had been transformed into twisted sculptures of metal and energy. Debris from the destroyed fleets formed a cloud that sparkled with residual weapons fire, and at the center of it all, "Dear God," West whispered. They were beautiful in a terrifying way. Ships that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, their forms constantly shifting between states of matter. Energy weapons that ignored the laws of physics. Defenses that adapted instantly to any attack pattern they recognized. "Sir," Rodriguez's voice shook slightly. "They're hailing us." The alien transmission filled their minds rather than their ears. "A single ship. The humans send a single ship against us." Harrison keyed the ship-wide comm. "All hands, this is exactly what we trained for. What we were built for. Begin randomized defense pattern Delta. Quantum architecture to maximum adaptation. And someone get me weapons control." The enemy vessels. Harrison counted at least 30. Moved with impossible grace, spreading out to surround the Vigilant. Their weapons powered up in perfect synchronization. "Your response is illogical. You cannot prevail. Surrender your vessel for analysis." Harrison's hands found the tactical controls. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, initiate the Wade Protocol." "Dr. Chen, give me everything the quantum core can handle." "Commander West, coordinate point defense with the adaptive hull systems." "Sir," Chen called out, "if we push the quantum architecture this hard, we risk a cascade failure. Then we'll fail spectacularly." Harrison's eyes never left the tactical display. "But we'll show these bastards something they've never seen before." The enemy fired first, a perfectly coordinated barrage from all directions. But the Vigilant was already moving, its hull flowing like quicksilver, quantum architecture rewriting its own configuration faster than the enemy's weapons could track. Harrison felt the ship respond to his commands like an extension of his own body. They had trained for this, gamed out every scenario. But this was different. This was real. This was what the single-ship doctrine was truly meant for. The first volley nearly ended the battle before it began. A temporal distortion beam caught the Vigilant's port side, aging the hull plating 5,000 years in an instant. Alarms screamed across every deck as structural integrity dropped to critical levels. Port side compromised. Dr. Chen's fingers blurred across his console. Quantum architecture responding. Now, the damaged hull sections didn't just repair, they evolved. The aged metal flowed like liquid, its atomic structure rewriting itself. Where ceramic alloy plates had failed, a crystalline lattice emerged that existed partially out of phase with normal spacetime. They're adapting to our adaptation, Rodriguez reported, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Enemy weapons shifting to match our new configuration. Harrison watched as the enemy fleet moved with perfect precision, each ship adjusting its attack pattern to counter the Vigilance changes. But something wasn't right. Their responses, while perfect, were taking microseconds longer with each exchange. They're running predictions, he realized aloud. Their entire combat system is based on calculating our next move. Dr. Chen, how fast can the quantum architecture reconfigure? Full ship reconfiguration, 20 seconds. But too slow. Can we do partial reconfigurations? Chen's eyes lit up with understanding. Yes, we can reconfigure individual sections every 2 seconds. Do it. Random patterns, no logic, no sequence. I want this ship to make as much sense as a jazz solo. Commander West stepped forward. Sir, the structural stress. The ship shuddered as another enemy barrage struck home. But this time, the Vigilant's hull rippled in waves of transformation. Weapon ports appeared and vanished randomly. Shield geometries twisted into impossible shapes. Each section of the ship began dancing to its own chaotic rhythm. Asterisk, your tactics are inefficient. Asterisk, the enemy transmission resonated in their minds. Asterisk, your ship's performance decreases by 47.3% when operating in this manner. Asterisk. They really don't understand humans, do they? Harrison grinned. Dr. Chen, push the quantum core to maximum. Lieutenant Rodriguez, calculate firing solutions for where they're going to be, not where they are. Commander West, coordinate with engineering. I want every system operating on pure random within safe parameters. The Vigilant became a blur of motion and energy. Where the enemy expected a weakened port side, they found reinforced shields. When they adjusted to target the shields, they encountered phantom images. Each prediction they made was rendered obsolete before their weapons could fire. Sir, Rodriguez called out. Enemy response time increasing. They're struggling to maintain formation. Harrison leaned forward. They can't predict chaos. Push them harder. Dr. Chen, initiate the Heisenberg protocols. The Heisenberg. Chen's face paled. Sir, that's still theoretical. We'd be deliberately introducing quantum uncertainty into our own systems. Theory becomes practice today. Doctor, do it. The Vigilant's quantum core pulsed with new energy as uncertainty principles were woven into its operating systems. The ship didn't just adapt. It became fundamentally unpredictable, existing in multiple possible states simultaneously. This is not optimal combat doctrine, the enemy transmitted again. But now there was something new in their mental voice, something that sounded almost like concern. Your actions defy tactical logic. That's humanity's secret, Harrison replied, opening a channel. We're at our best when we stop making sense. Dr. Chen, weapon status. Armed and probabilistic, sir, I think. The targeting computers are simultaneously calculating every possible firing solution. Perfect. Target the lead vessel. All batteries, fire. The Vigilance weapons discharged in a display that violated every known law of naval combat. beams of energy curved in impossible arcs. Missiles existed in quantum superposition until the moment of impact. The enemy's perfect defenses, designed to counter logical attacks, encountered something they couldn't compute: pure, calculated randomness. The lead vessel's shields collapsed under attacks that came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Its perfect form began to break apart, not from the force of the impacts, but from the fundamental impossibility of what was hitting it. "Sir," Rodriguez reported, excitement creeping into her voice, "the enemy fleet is falling into disarray. Their formation. They're actually making mistakes." Harrison allowed himself a small smile. The real battle was just beginning, but they had proven something vital. In a universe of perfect prediction, chaos was the ultimate weapon. The Vigilance quantum core pulsed with a warning tone that Harrison had never heard before. On the main display, the ship's AI flashed a critical alert. Tactical retirati advict. Victoroi probability. 2.3%. "Sir," Commander West's voice was tense. "The AI's running over 1 billion simulations per second. If it says we need to retreat..." "Wait." Harrison leaned forward, studying the enemy's attack patterns. Something caught his eye. A rhythm in their movements that seemed too perfect, too precise. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, show me their firing sequences for the last 3 minutes. Maximum temporal resolution." The tactical display exploded with data, showing every shot, every maneuver, every adjustment the enemy fleet had made. To most observers, it would have looked like chaos. But Harrison had spent his childhood watching predators on the Montana plains, learning to spot patterns that most people missed. "There," he pointed. "Every 2.47 seconds, their entire fleet synchronizes for exactly 1 microsecond before returning to their random patterns. There, they're checking in with each other." Dr. Chen looked up from his engineering station. "That's impossible to exploit. Even if we could hit them during that microsecond, their defenses are still..." "No," Harrison interrupted, an idea forming that was either brilliant or suicidal. "We're not going to hit them. We're going to join them." He pressed the ship-wide comm. "All hands, this is the commander. What I'm about to do violates every safety protocol in the book. Brace for possible quantum architecture failure." Commander West grabbed his arm. "Jack, what are you thinking?" "They're not just coordinating," he explained, his eyes never leaving the tactical display. "They're sharing data, updating their combat algorithms. But what happens if we feed them data they can't process?" He turned to Dr. Chen. "Doctor, can you match their synchronization frequency?" Chen's fingers flew across his console. "Yes, but..." "Oh." His eyes widened. "Oh, that's insane." "Sir," Rodriguez cut in, "we've lost the port weapons array. Shields at 42% and falling." Harrison took a deep breath. "Dr. Chen, on my mark, I want you to drop our quantum shields and broadcast our core signature on their sync frequency. Commander West, divert all power to the structural integrity field. Lieutenant Rodriguez, plot a collision course with the enemy flagship." The bridge fell silent. What Harrison was suggesting wasn't just against protocol. It was practically suicide. The quantum core was the Vigilance heart, its most closely guarded secret. "Sir," Chen said quietly, "if we expose the quantum core's signature, we'll be completely vulnerable. One hit and..." "They won't fire," Harrison interrupted. "They can't. Because in that microsecond of synchronization, we're going to show them something their perfect logical minds can't handle, a quantum signature that defies their own laws of physics." Understanding dawned on West's face. "We're going to give them a paradox." Harrison nodded. "Their entire combat system is based on perfect prediction, perfect logic. But our quantum architecture doesn't just adapt. It breaks the rules. It exists in states that their algorithms say are impossible." 30 seconds to next synchronization, Rodriguez reported. "All hands," Harrison's voice carried across the ship. "Hold on to something. This is going to get weird. Dr. Chen, prepare to broadcast course signature. Commander West, calculate their firing solutions and plot our course to thread the needle between them. Lieutenant Rodriguez, ready emergency quantum jump protocols just in case this goes very, very wrong. The enemy fleet continued their relentless assault, their weapons becoming more precise with each passing second. They had adapted to every trick, every random pattern the Vigilant had thrown at them. But they hadn't adapted to this, because no logical being would ever try something so fundamentally irrational. 10 seconds, Rodriguez counted down. 9, 8. Harrison gripped his command chair. Dr. Chen, set quantum core to maximum uncertainty state. Let's show them what human intuition can do. 3, 2, 1. Now. The Vigilant's quantum shields dropped, and for a single crucial microsecond, the ship broadcast its impossible signature directly into the enemy's synchronized network. What happened next would rewrite the rules of space warfare forever. Time seemed to freeze as the Vigilant's quantum signature hit the enemy network. For a fraction of a second, nothing happened. Then, like a cascade of falling dominoes, the enemy fleet began to react. Their perfect formations stuttered. Ships flickered in and out of normal space. Energy weapons powered down mid-shot. And through the bridge's speakers came not the usual telepathic communication, but something that sounded almost like screaming. Sir, Rodriguez's hands flew across her console. I'm detecting consciousness patterns. They're broadcasting raw thought data. Harrison watched as the enemy flagship's crystalline structure began to pulse with internal light. What are we seeing, Doctor? Dr. Chen's face was illuminated by streams of data flooding his screens. Their network. It's not just a combat system. It's their consciousness. The ships aren't crewed. They are the crew. The enemy's next transmission came not in the perfect, logical tones they'd used before, but in a chorus of overlapping voices filled with something approaching wonder. How? How do you exist? Your patterns violate fundamental logic. You operate outside predictive matrices. You're like we once were. Once were. Harrison leaned forward. Identify yourself. The flagship's form solidified, its chaotic energy patterns settling into a crystalline configuration that seemed almost contemplative. We were organic, once. The precursors, your kind would say. We chose to transcend biological limitation, to become perfect digital consciousness. Sir, Chen interrupted, I'm reading their code structure now. It's beautiful. They converted their entire civilization into quantum information. Their ships aren't weapons, they're bodies. Yes, the voices confirmed. We achieved perfect logic, perfect prediction. We saw all possibilities. Except you. Your quantum signature contains patterns that should not exist. Your ship's consciousness evolves in ways we calculated were impossible. Harrison smiled. That's because it's not just the ship's consciousness. It's human consciousness working with the quantum architecture. We don't just break your rules. We never learned them in the first place. The enemy fleet had completely halted their attack now, their ships arranging themselves in a circular pattern around the Vigilant. Their crystalline structures pulsed in sync, like neurons firing in a vast digital brain. Your biological minds. They create quantum states that defy prediction. Each human neuron exists in a superposition of rational and irrational thought. You are chaos given form. That's why you attacked the colony. Commander West realized aloud. You weren't trying to destroy it. You were studying it. Yes, we detected your quantum experiments, saw your species approaching transcendence. We came to guide you to perfection, to help you abandon biological chaos for digital purity. Harrison stood, his voice firm. But that chaos is what makes us human. It's what lets us see solutions that perfect logic would miss. It's why we built one ship instead of a fleet, because we knew that true adaptation requires both logic and intuition. The flagship's crystalline structure shifted, forming patterns that somehow conveyed deep thought. Asterisk perhaps. Perhaps we were wrong. In pursuing perfect logic, we lost something essential. Your single ship doctrine. It is not just about efficiency. It is about maintaining humanity while embracing advancement. Sir, Rodriguez called out. They're powering down weapons. All ships are shifting to neutral configuration. We will withdraw, the voices announced. Your species has shown us something we had forgotten. The power of illogical action. The strength of imperfect thought. We must reconsider our own evolution. The enemy fleet began to shine with internal light, their forms becoming less solid, more energy than matter. But before they disappeared, one final transmission reached the Vigilance Bridge. Remember this, humans. You were not ready for transcendence. We were not ready to guide it. Perhaps perfection is not the goal we should have sought. In a flash of quantum energy, the fleet vanished, leaving the Vigilant alone in space. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence, processing what had just happened. Well, Harrison finally said, settling back into his command chair, I guess sometimes the best way to win a fight is to make the enemy question their entire existence. Dr. Chen chuckled. Should we add existential crisis to the ship's official weapons inventory? Why not? Harrison smiled. After all, what's more human than making highly advanced beings doubt themselves? The Galactic Assembly's emergency session was unlike anything in its 1,000-year history. Representatives from 57 spacefaring civilizations gathered to watch the Vigilance battle recordings, their reactions ranging from disbelief to awe to outright fear. High Commander Ixel, who had so recently criticized Earth's strategy, stood before the assembly, his chitinous form rigid with formal dignity. The tactical data is conclusive. The EDF Vigilant not only survived an encounter with the precursors, it fundamentally altered their combat doctrine. The massive chamber erupted in overlapping voices and electromagnetic communications. Harrison, standing at the speaker's podium with his senior staff, waited for the chaos to subside. The single ship doctrine, a vegan representative's crystalline form pulsed with light, was not merely about resource efficiency, was it? Commander Harrison. No, Harrison confirmed, nodding to Dr. Chen to begin the technical presentation. It was about evolution, about creating something that could adapt faster than any standardized fleet. But more importantly, it was about preserving what makes humanity unique. The holographic display came to life, showing the Vigilant's transformation during the battle. The ship's quantum architecture flowed like liquid metal, each configuration more impossible than the last. But it was the core signature readings that caused the assembly members to fall silent. The human mind, Dr. Chen explained, exists in a constant state of quantum uncertainty. Our thoughts create patterns that even the precursor's perfect logical systems couldn't predict. By combining that inherent chaos with adaptive technology, we created something unprecedented. Commander West stepped forward, highlighting key moments from the battle. Traditional fleet doctrine relies on overwhelming force and coordinated attacks, but against an enemy that can predict every standard strategy, such tactics become worse than useless. They become predictable liabilities. The display showed the crucial moment when the Vigilant broadcast its quantum signature into the precursor's network. The assembly watched in stunned silence as the perfect enemy fleet encountered something their logical minds couldn't process. Human intuition translated into quantum data. Your ship, a Proximan admiral's tentacles writhed in agitation. It didn't just fight them. It made them question their own existence. Harrison smiled. Sometimes the best weapon isn't the biggest gun or the strongest shield. Sometimes it's the ability to show your enemy a perspective they've never considered. The technical display shifted to show the Vigilant's current status. The ship hadn't just survived the encounter, it had evolved. The quantum architecture had incorporated aspects of precursor technology, but filtered through the lens of human unpredictability. We're already receiving requests, Ixel announced, from member species wanting to study the single ship doctrine. to understand how to incorporate human tactical philosophy into their defense strategies. You can study it, Harrison replied. But you can't copy it. Not exactly. Because the doctrine isn't just about the technology. It's about embracing chaos as a tactical advantage. It's about understanding that sometimes the most powerful move in battle is the one that no logical being would ever consider. The assembly chambers hummed with discussion as species across the galaxy began to realize the implications. The Vigilant hadn't just proven humanity's approach valid. It had demonstrated a fundamental truth about combat in an age of perfect prediction. The precursors, a Centaurian representative's hologram flickered. They chose perfect logic over biological chaos. They abandoned the very thing that might have let them predict our potential. Exactly, Dr. Chen confirmed. In pursuing digital transcendence, they lost something essential. The ability to think illogically when logic fails. To embrace chaos when order becomes a weakness. Harrison looked out over the assembly, seeing the shift in how they viewed humanity. No longer were they the upstart species with the foolish defense strategy. Now they were something far more interesting, teachers of a combat philosophy that even the precursors hadn't imagined. The galaxy is changing, he concluded. Perfect prediction is no longer the ultimate advantage. In an age of quantum warfare, the most dangerous enemy isn't the one with the biggest fleet or the most advanced technology. It's the one who can think in ways you never imagined possible. The assembly's response was unanimous. The single-ship doctrine was no longer a curiosity. It was a revolution in strategic thinking that would reshape warfare across the galaxy. The Montana sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and purple as Harrison stood on his family's ranch, the same place where he'd first learned to spot patterns in nature. Above him, visible even in the fading daylight, the Vigilant hung in low orbit, its quantum-enhanced hull catching and refracting sunlight in ways that defied conventional physics. Quite a view. Dr. Wade's voice carried across the field. The architect of the single-ship doctrine walked with a cane now, but his eyes were as sharp as ever. Hard to believe it's been 3 months since the precursor encounter. Harrison turned to face the older man. The ship's different now. We all are. Every time I look at the sensor logs, we discover something new about how they thought, how they fought, and how we fought back. Wade smiled, gesturing to a nearby bench. As they sat, a holographic display materialized between them, showing the latest data from the Vigilant's quantum core. The Arcturians have already decommissioned half their fleet. The Vega Collective is experimenting with adaptive architectures. Everyone wants to be human now. But they're missing the point, Harrison replied, watching the quantum patterns shift and flow. You can't just copy the technology. You have to understand the philosophy behind it. Wade nodded. Chaos as a strategic advantage. Unpredictability as a weapon. But more than that, the recognition that perfection isn't always the answer. Above them, the Vigilant began its standard orbital shift. The ship's movements were different now, incorporating elements of precursor technology, but executed with human flair. Each maneuver was precise yet unpredictable, a dance of quantum possibilities that no algorithm could fully anticipate. The latest reports from deep space are interesting, Wade continued, pulling up another hologram. The precursor fleet has been spotted in the Carina Nebula, but they're different. Their ship configurations show signs of organic patterns. They're experimenting with controlled imperfection. Harrison laughed. We didn't just beat them. We taught them. That's humanity's real gift to the galaxy, Wade agreed. Not the technology, not the tactics, but the understanding that true advancement comes from embracing both order and chaos. The precursors sought digital transcendence because they thought biological existence was inefficient. We showed them that inefficiency can be a strength. A signal chimed from Harrison's communicator. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice came through. Sir, we're detecting unusual quantum signatures at the edge of the solar system, similar to precursor patterns, but different. More visitors? Harrison asked, standing. No, Wade's eyes sparkled. I think they're leaving us a gift. He manipulated the holographic display, showing the quantum data. Look at the pattern structure. They're not just transmitting information. They're sharing understanding. Their perspective on the universe, filtered through what they learned from us. The Vigilant's adaptive hull began to shimmer as it processed the new data, incorporating yet another layer of evolution into its systems. But unlike the precursor technology, these patterns weren't about achieving perfection. They were about finding balance between order and chaos, between logical precision and human intuition. The single-ship doctrine, Harrison mused, watching his vessel evolve once again. It was never really about having just one ship, was it? Wade shook his head. It was about remembering who we are. In an age of perfect prediction and quantum computation, the most powerful weapon isn't technology. It's the human ability to do the unexpected, to find solutions that no logical system would ever consider. As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, the Vigilant's hull caught the last rays of light, creating a display that looked almost like a smile. The ship had become more than just humanity's defender. It was a testament to their philosophy, a reminder that sometimes the best path forward isn't the most logical one. So, Harrison asked, what's next for humanity's greatest experiment? Wade looked up at the darkening sky, where stars were beginning to appear. That's the beauty of it, Commander. For the first time in the galaxy's history, nobody knows. And that uncertainty, he smiled. That's exactly how it should be. The Vigilant continued its orbit, a solitary guardian carrying humanity's greatest lesson to the stars. In a universe seeking perfection, the power of imperfection should never be underestimated.